Hi everyone, it's a real joy for me to have this chance to bring greetings to you and just share some thoughts with you as you begin a new term working with your GB groups. We've certainly been through an extraordinary 18-month period where much of what we considered normal has been set aside and many of our routines have been significantly disturbed. I don't know about you, but I'm something of a creature of habit, so things that upset my routines are not necessarily welcome. One of the first things I do each day is write a list. It starts with the vital tasks, then I add the important ones that it would be helpful to get done, and then perhaps a few more that would be brilliant to get done if I had chance. I'm a list maker. Maybe some of you are too. At the end of the day, though, some things will have been ticked off the list, and often I'm disappointed at what I haven't done. And maybe you're thinking, well, Jill, why don't you get it all done? Was there too much on the list? Are you lazy? Or do you let yourself be distracted? Well, any of those are possible, I guess, but you'll know from your experience that the answer has not so much to do with distractions that creep in, but with disruptions over which I have no control, things that come along and turn my plans for the day upside down. And we don't like it, do we? Or at least I don't. Our plans, our intentions, our dreams, our hopes, our ambitions, all overturned. Our world turned upside down. Our lives changed into something we don't recognise. Our days constrained in ways that we find distressing. Disruption isn't something that we usually welcome, and disruption isn't necessarily a word that comes to mind when we think of Jesus either. We speak of him bringing comfort and encouragement, affirmation or challenge. But there is that story in the Gospels of Jesus causing disruption in the temple when he turned over all the tables. Why does he do it? Well, what Jesus witnessed there was nothing unusual. People were excited to be in the temple where they believed God to be, but they were behaving in ways that weren't necessarily the best way for them to encounter God. And Jesus walks into all that chaos and he gets angry, but he pauses and he makes a whip of cords, and then he releases his anger. He overturns tables, drives out sheep and cattle, scatters the money changers' gains. No one escapes. Why? Because the system is broken. This is a time of crisis for God's people. But Jesus wasn't causing disruption just for the sake of it. He was suggesting that the old way of doing things was no longer appropriate. Somewhere along the way, amidst all the rituals and fripperies, they had lost their passion for God. So Jesus disrupted things to make the people reassess. He wanted them to consider that there might just be another way to worship and encounter God, another way to experience life in the way that God intended. During this last 18 months, we have known disruption. No meeting in person, no normal GB activities, no seeing friends or going out for meals, everything upside down. And it all seems so negative, doesn't it? We speak of what we can't do and what we've lost. And it's important that we acknowledge our pain and our grief, and we support the girls and young women in our groups through their experiences too. But disruptions don't always have to be negative experiences, do they? They can be powerful and transforming as well. They give us chance to reflect, to reconsider, to reorientate, to think and pray again about what's really important and rewrite the priority list for ourselves and for our GB groups. So what might the disruptions of this last year be saying as we move into this new term? Jesus wanted the outcome of the disruption in the temple to turn people back to God, our God, who is alive and present, not just in the church building or wherever our groups usually meet, but in the park and in our homes and in the schools and in the shops, and yes, even via our laptop and phone screens. Just like many in the temple, we've been forced out of our buildings and forced to rethink how we reconnect with the girls in our groups. So as we prepare to gather together again, and as we're conscious of needing to take care of each other, what are the tables that might need to be flipped over and cleared out in our lives and in our GB groups? We might feel that some of that flipping over has already happened, and it's tempting to look at the aftermath, to feel a bit overwhelmed by it, and just hope we can get back to normal. But what if by rushing ahead or even rushing back to what was, we're missing out on the more exciting story that God is writing for us? What if we just need to look at the chaos for a bit longer to really understand where God is leading? Jesus didn't disrupt everything in the temple just to spoil everyone's fun, but to encourage them to discover a better way. My sense is that if we just allow the disruption to reorientate us afresh towards the living God who journeys with us everywhere and always, who delights in our worship and who calls us to share the good news, our sense that all is well and our perspective on the world might just change. So thank you for all that you've done to stay in touch with each other and with the girls and young women in your groups during these strange times. Let's now recommit ourselves to the work that God has called us to and allow the Spirit of God to adjust our priorities, to restore our sense of balance, and to renew our passion and our courage to sharing God's mission amongst girls and young women. Remembering that, as that wonderful woman Julian of Norwich once said, all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. May that be your experience in these coming days and weeks. Thank you.